Second update 2. My husband thinks I baby trapped him despite the baby being planned. If you haven't watched the first 2 parts of this story yet, click the card above or the link in the description. Now for the second update to this story. Thank you to everyone for all the messages and kind pieces of advice. I have received so many requests for an update, so I thought I would quickly post and let you all know how I'm doing. Overall, everything is settled a little bit. In good news, I had a scan with a doctor and my mother-in-law attended with me, and the baby is happy and healthy. I finally found out the gender. I'm having a little girl. I am over the moon. My mother-in-law was a gem and was so touched that I had included her in the scan. She's very excited to be a granny. On that note, my mother-in-law organized a family lunch a couple of days after the scan. I was a little reluctant, but I knew that she had good intentions and wouldn't do anything to make matters worse. When I arrived, my husband and brother-in-law were there, along with my father-in-law, male 70, and my mother-in-law. It was quite awkward until my mother-in-law asked if anyone had anything to say. My brother-in-law spoke first and apologized for his awful text, saying that he was swept up in the moment and wanted to support his brother. I explained how hurtful it had been to receive such a nasty and vindictive message, and that he knew as well as anyone that my husband and I had been trying for almost a year. He hung his head and mumbled something. That was pretty much the last I heard out of him for the afternoon. Next, my mother-in-law looked quite pointedly at my husband, but he actively avoided anyone's eyes. Eventually, she spoke up and announced that my husband would no longer be welcome to stay in their house. She said that she was ashamed to have her son behave the way that he has, and that she would prefer to make space for her granddaughter rather than have some lowlife hanging around. My husband had opened up his mouth to say something earlier, but his eyes lit up when she said granddaughter. My husband always wanted a girl, and he was suddenly in tears saying that he was so pleased to hear the gender. My husband was suddenly wanting to touch my belly and ask if he could come home and paint the nursery. I told him in no uncertain terms that he was not welcome and that he had destroyed any trust I had in him. I told him that if I took him back, I would be worried that he would disappear in any kind of big news, and that I couldn't have someone at my side who balked at the first chance. He asked me if I was telling him it was over, and I point-blank told him that I had engaged a lawyer. My husband was kind of frantic, but I felt so calm, like someone had put a blanket over me in the situation. Normally I'm a big crier, but I felt so removed from everything now. My husband said that this was not fair. He had just shown a little bit of panic, and suddenly I am throwing away our life and denying him his daughter. My father-in-law reminded him that this is the same baby he felt trapped by no more than 2 weeks ago. My husband said that it was a mistake and he was stressed, but my mother-in-law asked him how he thought I felt. She asked him to imagine being so vulnerable and giving up your body to grow a family, and suddenly the one person you trust is accusing you of terrible things. He said it was a mistake and he projected his fears onto me. I told my husband that I felt so broken when he left, because I had all these dreams of a beautiful family which came crashing down in an instant. My husband said that he wanted those things with me, and he wanted our baby girl, but that he let the panic overwhelm him. I told him that wasn't a good enough excuse for what he put me through, and that he certainly didn't seem panicked when his mom had to drag him to my door to apologize. He didn't have much of an answer other than to say that he was ready now and wanted our girl. In all of this, in all the times he told me he wanted me and our baby, he never once apologized properly. After a very, very long discussion, the lunch wrapped up and my mother-in-law stood by what she said about my husband not being welcome. He asked again if he could come home with me, and I told him that it was my house. I owned a house before we married, and it was going to be a safe space for me. That is to say, he is not welcome. As far as I know, he is staying at some hotel. Finally, he was served divorce papers at work on Friday. My bestie's husband drafted them earlier, but I wanted to wait until I had thought it all through. I received a few missed calls and crying voicemails asking if I was really throwing away our family, but I did not respond. He then took a crying selfie sitting in his car, which my bestie laughed at quite a bit. My mother-in-law called me when she heard and told me that I am making the right decision. She said she never wanted my marriage to end this way, or for her son to be so callous, but she said she's here for my baby and I, and that we will always be family. She even tried to apologize on my husband's behalf, but I told her that was not necessary. At the end of the day, his actions are his to own. My best friend has been around all weekend, and we went baby clothes shopping for a little bit of sunshine in all of this. She has been such a rock, and her husband has helped so much with the process. I don't know what will happen next, but I feel much calmer and like I am making the right decision. I will update again if anything major or exciting happens, but for now, I just want to get through all of this and hopefully come out with a beautiful baby girl. Wish us luck. Now for the top comments. He even took a crying selfie sitting in his car. Wow, buddy, you dug this hole. Opie, you really dodged a bullet. I'm glad you are doing better and that you keep mother-in-law. Yep, agree. That is some grade A manipulation tactics he's got going on right there. Acting like he's a victim instead of the one who destroyed his own damn family. All he had to do was Google what baby trapping actually is. What it ain't is a 7-year marriage and tried for pregnancy. Consequences meet some very stupid actions. When my toddler falls asleep on me and I can't get up, I say I'm baby trapped. My friends and I call that nap trapped. I got his mom in the divorce is such an amazing flex. Good for Opie. That was actually quite sweet. Maybe I read too many horrible mother-in-law posts here that I forgot good ones exist. My mother-in-law always says she'll beat my fiancé's butt if he leaves me, but mostly because she knows I'll get the dogs. Let's hear it for this Reddit unicorn. A better than decent mother-in-law. I had an amazing mother-in-law who passed 2 weeks ago, and I can't tell you how much I miss her. She was one of 2 people I could actually be myself with. All my flaws were out in the open, and she was just accepting and amazing. There are few and far between, but unicorn mother-in-laws are out there. I wish Opie all the luck in the world. Next story. I lost the love of my life because I didn't think I was good enough for his kids. After a long period of being single, I finally found an amazing, kind-hearted guy, 30. He was everything I ever wanted and exceeded my expectations by far. My 28 was and still I'm so in love with him. He was the love of my life. Yesterday, he ended things because he told me I don't seem ready to be a stepmother to his 2 daughters, 5 and 8, and it broke my heart. I haven't even met them yet, but we had a discussion about how things would look like with me as their stepmom in the picture. I said I would support him, but I can't take full responsibility for them because I work full-time, and I didn't bring them into this world. He said that his kids always come first, and I don't seem mature enough to put someone else's needs before my own. He went on to say that I might make him very happy, but I won't be capable of making his 2 girls happy. A major point that made me angry was that he said that he would ask his 8-year-old if she wanted another sibling before considering having a child with me. This really upset me because I don't want a child to have authority over an important decision like that. He said she should be included in that decision, and from there on our conversation went downhill. He broke things off, saying I'd be unfit step-parent since I'm not willing to put their needs first. I'm absolutely heartbroken. I would have loved having those kids in my life. I just didn't want to give up everything in order to serve them. I'm in a lot of pain. I love him so much and I've envisioned myself having a future with him. We were already talking about getting married, and now it all became nothing overnight. Thanks for listening. Opie, you might not see this now, but you dodged a huge bullet. Your life would have been ruled by his children. Your opinions, wants, and needs would not matter at all. Him saying that an 8-year-old can tell you whether or not you are having a child is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. It's crazy. Yes, it sounds like a very unhealthy dynamic. I'm a single dad with shared custody, so I get prioritizing the kids. But they don't get to be first all the time. They don't get to decide whether or not they go to school. They don't get to decide what to eat. And they especially don't get to decide whether to have more kids or not. Raising kids is about showing them how to make good choices, not letting them rule the roost. I'm afraid that Opie's ex is going to raise a couple of entitled monsters who don't know how to deal with being told no. Sometimes people confuse this idea. Putting kids first does not mean making your partner subservient to them. It does not mean you shouldn't make time for your partner. It does not mean your precious kids can't ever be wrong. Children are not deities to be worshipped and pedestaled in perpetuity. It's commendable for any parent to prioritize their kids, but that should not be at the expense of everybody else. This is how society winds up with whiny, lazy, entitled, disrespectful teens/adults. This man is not the love of your life. It was the honeymoon phase. When it passes, you'll be able to be truly grateful that it's gone. Yesterday, my stepson called crying because nobody will take him seriously enough to offer him a salary job. He dropped out of 7th grade and played video games all day, despite my complaining and moaning and trying to force him to go. He's 31 now. His daddy cannot even get him a job at a company he's worked at for the kid's entire life. His brother works there though, so he's just as miserable now watching his dad, sister, and brother make a decent income. It was sad he was crying to his dad that he would never be successful at anything. I let his father know after the call how many times I was there to remind him he needed school, and this is the price he will pay for the rest of his life. He did not need a wife. He needed a caretaker for his children, with occasional benefits, who can be appeased with a ring. Had you agreed to this, in a matter of months, your life would be that of a stay-at-home mom, excluding the love one would harbor for children raised from day one. Those children and kind would not love you as a mother. Also, there was an overwhelming chance that he simply did not want any more children. Hence, leaving your future plans on a maybe or the verdict of his daughters. Losing someone who on the surface came off as perfect, I understand it hurts. But frankly, if he was willing to head into marriage this early, after repeatedly affirming you would need to raise his children, it raises questions about the true motives and reasons why he was so eager to secure you. In my opinion, you dodged a bullet. Last story. How do I, female 28, tell my husband, male 33, that I want a divorce? I'm miserable. So miserable. We used to be really happy and like each other. Since our daughter was born, everything has changed. She's almost a year old and is yet to do anything to help with her. He sleeps in a different room to me and the baby as she's still in my room, so he's never done a night feed or rocked her back to sleep or anything like that. He doesn't sort her meals, her bottles. He doesn't do laundry nor clean the house. He sits on his ass constantly and just plays on his phone. No matter how much I say I need help with everyday things, he always says he'll change but doesn't. We argue every single day. He's self-employed, works constantly, and still brings home hardly anything. What he does earn, he takes for petrol in a car, vaping, and tattoos. This has been going on for years. He has a job for a bit, then gets fired and doesn't do anything for a while until he goes to the next thing. For 6 years, I've single-handedly been financially responsible for every single thing. All the bills, the rent, etc. is all down to me. We're in a lot of debt, and I pay my own as well as his too. And obviously now we have a child, I'm also doing all the parenting. I do 99% of her care, and he maybe gives her a bottle once every so often. His patience is awful, and his attitude is worse. He constantly believes I'm cheating. If I'm on my phone, he wants to know exactly who I'm texting and what we're talking about. It isn't because he's interested, it's because he thinks it's someone else. I want to divorce and be free. I'm already doing everything alone, so it makes no difference. I feel like I'm trapped though. He has nowhere else to go if I ask him to move out. He can't afford to get a place of his own. The house we live in is owned by my father, and every bill, etc. is in my name, so I'm not leaving. Doesn't matter what we say, he thinks we're happy. He can't take the hint, and I'm miserable and wish he'd go away. Despite it all, I want him to be okay moving forward, and I'm worried about hurting his feelings saying I'm done. I'm worried about custody and his family, who don't like me anyway, and the impact of that too. I'm worried the opinions of everyone else with this. And I don't even know how to say I'm done. I've been trying for 6 months to tell him, but he says he'll change and things will be different. I don't know how to do it, but I know I need to. I'm sorry, this is a lot of rambling. Just feel like I'm at breaking point with life in general. Mental health isn't great and I need to escape. I don't want to keep trying to make this work when I don't feel anything towards him but resentment. Edit, in response to the constant "why did you have a kid with him" comments, because I'm obviously an idiot and I've ruined her life already by dragging her through this. I don't need the reminders that I'm a terrible mother. I'm already aware. I'm trying my best for her and she's always first. I'd have started this process months ago, but I'm afraid of him, alright? Now for the top advice. I've filed for a divorce. Hand papers, or have your lawyer do it themselves. You've described someone who is only dragging you down. The longer you wait to dump this loser, the longer you'll hurt. I'd arrange for male family members or even the police to be there when this goes down. Followed by, get the F out of my house. Don't do that without advice from your lawyer. In a former life, I worked in a family law firm and saw this all the time. Generally, you can't just force your spouse out of the marital home, even if he's a freeloading loser who has never paid a bill. It's stupid and it sucks, but it's the law. OP should talk to a lawyer before doing anything. From someone who can appreciate from personal experience, a lot of what you say above is 1. You've tried to communicate your needs. He's had his chances. You say he's been like this for years. If he hasn't changed by now, he isn't going to. Not in this relationship anyway. 2. This relationship is not a partnership. You are roommates. and you are taking care of everything. You're a single parent in a marriage with two parents. You deserve better. 3. Of course, he doesn't think there's an issue. He has it easy. You take care of everything and he likes it that way. 4. The above point said, I honestly doubt he is actually happy. He's probably just comfortable enough to keep going. 5. Don't worry or be guilt-tripped about where he would go if you divorced, how he would feel, etc. That's a false flag that keeps you in a situation that isn't healthy, for reasons that are selfish for the other person. 6. Don't worry about what others will think if you get divorced. They don't have to live in a marriage that makes you miserable. They don't have a dog in this fight, period. 7. Where do you go from here? My advice would be to quietly talk to an attorney. Get your ducks in a row. Plan out with your attorney what the next 6 to 18 months may look like. Let a trusted friend or family member who can keep quiet know what's going on, so you have someone you can call if you need help ASAP. Make sure you and baby are/stay safe. 8. Do not stay together for the baby. Your relationship is not healthy, which means it is not good for the child either. As a person who was stuck as a child in a household with parents who should have split long before they did, please don't use the child as an excuse to not leave. Best wishes to you, OP. This is amazing advice, truly. Rest assured, my baby deserves better than to be stuck in the middle.